Master Your Mindset with Nate Schooler and Kim Adele.
Hey.
Hey, Kim. How you doing?
I'm all good, my lovely. How are you?
Well, I was all right. It's strangely enough, I literally just put my computer on it, decided I wanted to do a Windows update, and you know the kind of standard thing, right? Which is like panic, yeah.
We have had one of those weeks where things haven't necessarily gone to plan, but I think that does gives us a chance, doesn't it, to see how well we cope when life throws us a plot twist.
Very much so, very much so, and it happens all the time, right? Like we are continually bombarded with change, yeah. Like it's a continual thing, yeah. And you know, wherever people are in their lives and their careers, they're going to get change, whatever happens, and it's how you handle it, right? And how you kind of roll with. I mean, you're rolling the punches, aren't you? At the end of the day, because you're not expecting these things to happen, and it's like you get this panic, but actually, in the scheme of things, we're still alive and we made it through, right? Like that's how I kind of look at it.
Well, I kind of always look at it and say, you know, we've survived 100% of the challenges life's thrown at us so far. So we've got a pretty strong batting average. So that should give us some confidence that we can continue. But I remember years ago having to run a really major redundancy program. And the board came and sat with me the night before, and they were like, "Have we planned everything? Are we completely airtight?" And I said, "Well, I've planned everything that I can." And they looked terrified. His little faces were like, "What do you mean? You've planned everything you can?" And I was like, "This is people. So I can plan for every eventuality I can think of, but we're about to talk to 1,800 people that have got unique things going off in their life, and I can't possibly know everything that's happening to all 1,800 people. So what I don't know is what this is going to do when added to the burden that they've already got. And all I can do is be there and hold the space for them and try and understand what it's like to be them and listen and understand." I said, "But you're never going to be 100% ready. There's no such thing as perfect. We are perfectly imperfect." And that doesn't mean to say that we don't plan to try and do the best that we can. But actually, if we can get really comfortable and confident with the fact that we are perfectly imperfect, that life will throw us a plot twist, that things won't always go to plan, then we won't get so badly derailed when things go out of kilter, because you kind of expect the unexpected, don't you? You kind of get to those parts that say, you know, I've got an amazing plan for this week. I knew exactly what I was going to be doing. I'd got a new company that I'm working with. We'd got the launch of things. Scarlett's got nursery and starting new school. And then, you know, we had a potential COVID challenge and in the afternoon in A&E, none of which were planned, none of which were expected. And you could get very distressed about the whole thing and the fact that the world didn't go to plan, or you just go, "Do you know what? Okay, well, the universe has got a different plan for me this week. So what am I going to learn from it?" Well, I'm going to learn that people are extremely adaptable. People were really accommodating of the fact that it's very hard to explain to a 4-year-old that, no, you can't come and join in the interview. And it now is not a really good time for you to use a wet sponge to clean mummy's laptop. But, you know, these things happen.
They crack me up.
But you could, getting upset about it, worrying about it doesn't change anything. What it does is it stops you from moving forward, because you get stuck in the where you thought you were going to be. And instead, you know, I look at it and go, okay, so is this what I expected to be doing on Thursday morning? No. Is it what I'm now doing? Yeah, it is. So actually, how do I make the best of this? How do I get the most out of it and use it as an opportunity to develop a new skill, to realize that actually you can be resilient. You can find a different path when the path that you wanted to take is no longer available to you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people are really scared, right? They're afraid of things, and they invent. I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. Like, you know, you invent things in your mind, right? Like, it's like, well, what's going to happen? Like, if this happens, and you're basically like looking at the worst and saying, well, is this going to happen? Like, this is going to happen, and then you create it, you make it happen because you're thinking about the worst, right? So it's almost like distracting yourself from that.
And you're not giving
potential.
your conscious brain a chance to find any solutions, because all you're looking for is obstacles, for things that are going to go wrong, for something else that's going to trip you up, instead of going, okay, so it's a little, I always talk about, imagine I'm going to Edinburgh and I thought I was going to go on the train, but the train stops running, so now I've got to find an alternative route. Doesn't mean to say I'm no longer going to Edinburgh, but I have to look at, could I get a taxi, could I get a plane, could I catch a lift with somebody? It doesn't alter my destination. It just means I'm going to have a very different and very interesting journey to get there. But imagine what I can learn on that. Imagine what I can take with me. And I could have looked at this week and gone, there was lots of things that didn't go right. There were, but there were lots of opportunities to have more precious time with my little one, to watch her grow, to see how she took all of these challenges in her stride. She's only 4. She's like, but she tackles them head on. And it made me realize that very often we create monsters under our bed, and actually, just like she does, when you shine a light on them, they're just yesterday's discarded toys. They're nothing to be scared of. And actually, we can tidy them up and move forward and learn something new. And I think that is just life, isn't it? We make it much scarier than perhaps it needs to be.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So, I mean, in our last conversation about this topic, we discussed, about, what is your goal, right? So let's assume that people may not have seen that. So, we establish what our goal is, and then we set a goal, and perhaps it's a 5-year goal. And like you say, we perhaps get lost the way. Like Michael Tobin says a lot about getting Ubered, right? Like he's like, well, I remember listening to one of his audio books where he tells a story about how he was going somewhere and he needed to go to like a family wedding, but actually he got completely stuck in this random airport somewhere, and he had to basically just get a small little aeroplane, right? And he managed to blag this guy to basically give him a ride in this little tiny airplane that he'd never kind of been before. And so there are always going to be people who are going to help you with your transition, right? So what do you think about that, Kim?
Yeah, I think some of it is saying, actually, we love to help. As human beings, we love to help. I love it if I'm able to help somebody, because it means I've added some value. And that's part of my purpose in life, is to leave things better than I found them and to add some value. So when somebody gives me the privilege of being able to offer some help, that's an amazing gift, and I accept it wholeheartedly. But I wasn't very good at asking for help. And that wasn't because I didn't think people could help me. Oh my goodness, I know they can help me. But because I didn't want to be seen to be a burden. I didn't want to add to their challenges. And it's only been recently in chatting to people that I inadvertently was instead making them think I didn't need them. So I think sometimes it's that piece of saying, actually know what your goal is, and then invite people to help you to achieve it. Give them the gift of being able to leave things better than they found them, because actually that's a real joy for people. And it also shows that you trust them, that you value their opinion, that you are including them. Because I always think whenever I go in and run a big organization, I could know the goal, and that's great, and we might stand a chance of getting there. Or I could tell everybody in the organization what the goal is, and therefore we're all focused on it. We're going to get there a lot faster. So many years ago, it used to be that knowledge was power, but knowledge is only powerful if you share it. If I've got all the knowledge and nobody else knows what it is, it's not powerful. It just makes me that 5-year-old that clings on to the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle because they want to be the one that wins, that like created the final picture. And that's not how we win. That we win when we co-create. And I think that's the lesson we're all learning now, which is we're stronger together. So actually be clear where it is you want to go. Be clear on what your goal is and why it's important to you. And the why is, for me, is crucial, because when the going gets tough, remembering why I'm doing it, who I'm doing it for, allows me to regain that energy to keep focused. And then share it with people, seek help, seek advice, and at the same time offer help and advice. So this isn't just what can I get, it's what can I give, because what we give, we get back, not necessarily in a linear pattern. It's not a case of, I was saying this with a friend of mine a while ago, and it was like, oh, you've got me so many clients, I haven't got you any. And I was like, that's not how it works, love. It doesn't work that way. I've not got a tick list here that I'm going, well, I got you this many and I'm expecting that many in return. I said, the reality is I've met people that need what it is that you do, and I know, like, trust you, and I know that you're good at it. So I just put you in the right direction. And actually, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. All I did was connect the dots. And the same will be true. Eventually somebody will connect the dots and I'll connect with somebody who I can help. That's how the world works. And I think we've got ourselves too hung up on if I do this for you, what are you going to do back for me? And that's not how we're supposed to be, I don't think.
Yeah, very much so. I agree. So in terms of like this transition that people are making with their careers, or their businesses, right? There are going to be people that are, really struggling, and they've just basically ended up in this place, and they're kind of a bit sort of distraught, and they're worried and everything else, and that can kind of cause inactivity, right? And it can cause over drinking, oversleeping, lots of stress that basically stops them from moving forwards. So is there something you'd advise? Do you think they should talk to someone or speak to a coach or a mentor or what?
Yeah, so I think sometimes it's, if you don't know how to get yourself unstuck, ask somebody, whether that's a coach, a mentor, a really good friend, whether it's to listen to a podcast, an audio book, go and look at a motivational video, anything that's just going to allow you to jump your mindset into a different space, that's going to get your subconscious focused on where you want to go, not on where you're currently stuck. And the other thing is, we often wait until it's perfect. So I can see the whole thing. Until I can see the whole thing, I'm not even going to move forward. I'm not going to take that step. And then it feels further and further away from me. And actually, one of the things, I love a good quote. I can get a quote anywhere. This one is actually from Frozen 2, but I loved it, which was, you just have to do the next right thing. So I might not know what the answer is. I might not know how to solve the problem, but can I see a right step to take? And if I can, take it. Because with every step we take, we change our vantage point. And before you know it, a new solution or a new person or a new resource is going to come into your line of sight that's going to be able to help you. But any form of progress just helps you, because it's getting your mindset thinking about solving the problem. And one of the other quotes that I often use is, obstacles are the things we see when we take our eye off the goal. When we're not looking at where we're going, we're instead looking at where we are currently stuck. We can really find a challenge. So instead, really looking at where it is we want to go and just taking those steps, no matter how small they are. Some days, one of my goals can be, it was this week, if I can just adult for 12 hours, then I've done a pretty good job. And that might not seem very successful to anybody else. But do you know what? When I'd just been thrown a self-isolation, A&E, balancing 2 jobs, trying to finish the launch of a new business, adulting for 12 hours felt pretty spectacular. I was very pleased when I achieved it. I just set myself a different goal the next day.
Yeah, that's really good advice, not being too hard on yourself. And just to wrap up, right? I mean, I think when it comes to this, thank you, Pete, by the way, for your comment. I think when it comes to this stress that we're feeling, it actually is there for a purpose. It's there for a reason, and actually, that stress in many cases contains a message. So, what I personally do is I get a pad of paper, old school, right, and literally. I get my fountain pen out, right? I've still got my bottle of ink, and I get my fountain pen, and I don't dip the pen. It's not that old a pen, right? But anyway, I'm doing my green thing. I'm doing the green thing, right? Ish. And literally, I will write notes, and it will be like, well, why am I stressed? Like, what is the root cause of this? And it's not normally the root cause. It's actually the actions that I need to take to move towards the goal that I'm trying to achieve. And sometimes, like, you help me to understand that. So I developed like my own process based upon what we spoke about, which basically helped me to create that process. And I think everybody, not everybody has a process of their own, and if not, we have some amazing training. If people want to grab it, they can go to elitecoachesclub.com, and there's the Grow training, right, which is a model that you've been using for quite a long time, Kim. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been using it for 30 years, and it really is just a process to help people kind of get from where they want to go to from where they are to where they want to go. Because in my experience, the two biggest challenges is often you've not really defined where you're going, or you've not been really honest about where you're starting from. And if either of those are out of kilter, you're going to come up against obstacles that you didn't expect to see. And I think having an iterative process, allowing you to go back. I mean, we do reflections of the week, and anybody that's worked with me knows I've been doing reflections of the week for coming up 20 years now. Because it's a great way to reflect. One of the things that we don't often do is our lessons learned. We hit a challenge, we hit something that wasn't going to plan, and we go head down and we try and work out a way through. And when we get through, if we're lucky, we might congratulate ourselves. If we're not lucky, we just put our head down to get on with the next challenge. And what we don't do is look at, okay, so what happened? What did I do? What steps did I take? How did I get myself past that overwhelm? Because very often what happens is we're not responding to what's happening. We're responding to what we made it mean. So if something hasn't gone to plan, that's because nothing ever goes to plan, because my world always is messed up, because everything is always against me, because. And I'm now over here dealing with something that probably is a trigger from my childhood, rather than looking at it and going, okay, do you know what? So somebody tested positive and we've got to go and get a test. And until we get the test results, we've got to stay at home to keep the world safe. And therefore, I'm going to have to let people know that I can still do the calls, but I've got a little one with me, rearrange as many of them as I possibly can, and do some work in the evenings when she's gone to bed. You find a way through, you find a path. But now what I've done as part of this week's reflection is go, okay, how easy was that? Well, actually, it was quite easy. You know, here was my list of things. Here was the ones that I could reschedule. Actually, I've now got a nice email that I can send, heaven forbid, should that happen again. So I don't have to think, how do I get out and comms people? How do I let them know? Actually, does it matter? I disappeared off social media for a couple of days. I'm sure nobody noticed. Nobody probably cared. And you kind of get back on later. I'm sure people did care. People have been really kind, bless them. So that was unfair to say. But what I mean is, it wasn't a trauma for anybody that you weren't responding to their messages for a couple of days. You just picked them up later on. People just want to know that you're okay and that you're safe. And likewise, I just want to know that people around me are okay and that they're safe. And is there anything I can do to help? So I think for me, it's those parts of saying, take that moment every week, if you can, to just look back and say, what am I grateful for this week? What's gone well? What have I actually, what went better than I thought? You know, I was dreading something and actually got to the end of the week and went, I didn't go too bad. That was all right. But equally, what have I learned this week? And those learns don't have to be something that went wrong. It can be, I dreaded doing this. I put it off for 3 days. I did it. It went brilliantly. I wish I'd done it on Monday and not had 3 sleepless nights, working my way up to having that conversation, doing that piece of work, making that call, whatever it is. But give yourself that moment to reflect and then say, you know, so if these are the things I'm grateful for, these are the things I've learned. And therefore, what's my takeaway for the week? And then I've got a great friend, Caroline Rice, who always talks about having your Big Me Up book, and I love it. And I now will put something in my Big Me Up book every week, which is what's the one takeaway from the week that I'm quite proud of. And it can be that I helped somebody. It can be that I learned something new. It can be that I faced a disaster and you know what? I survived. But all of those just are the thing that when you're in that place where you are really struggling with your motivation, with your drive, with that fear that actually you're not good enough, you're not going to be able to do it, you're going to get found out, you can flick back through this book and go, I felt that before, but look how far I've come. Look how much I've already overcome. And it's amazing what that can do to trigger that subconscious to now find the next opportunity. You know, there's an old saying that when God closes a door, he opens a window. And I think, you know, it's looking for that piece. It's going, that route has been blocked off to me, but what other opportunities are there to enable me to still move forward?
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic advice. And yeah, I mean, I think this week has been a really good week, actually, on the whole, from a growth point of view and moving forwards with what we're doing with the business. It's been a really good week. And, you know, we know what we need to be doing. And, you know, just because you had childcare challenges, right? when my daughter was that age, I know how hard it is, and people who have never had a kid, they have no clue how hard it is, because a child of that age, right, it's like their world, they're in control. Like, you can say whatever you want, but you know, they will get your attention, and they'll do whatever it takes to get your attention. And you know what? So what, right? Because actually, it's actually quite fun when you get into it, right? It's quite fun. And yeah,
that's why I became a mum. I became a mum because I want to be there for my little girl. And yeah, does sometimes it go to plan? No, it doesn't. But then, does life go to plan? No, it doesn't.
Never.
And I've learned more about leadership since being a mum than I learned in the 25 years before. Because you see the natural instincts of our children to lead, to want to step in and help each other out, to want to learn new things, to want to be the same as everybody else. They've got that determination. They've got that ruthless determination, I would say. They want something they want it, they're going to get it, right? And they're going to find a path through. But actually, they don't let knocks get them down. You know, they fall down, they get back up again, they think about it, they try again. And I just look at it and go, we all had that. That is in us. Our inner child is still in there. So maybe we just need to unlock the door and give them the key and say, do you know what? Actually, I want that ruthless determination to be the best that I can be. And that's not about being ruthlessly determined at the detriment of anybody else. I think as long as my goal, and I wrote this quote for my little girl, but I believe it to be true of everybody, which is to be kind, to try hard, to dream big, and to believe, because we're all proof that miracles happen. And because we're all proof that a miracle happened to somebody. And I think if we can, as long as we're being kind and we're trying to leave things better than we found them, then a bit of ruthless determination is a good thing, because it gives us that drive to take the leap of faith that very often we just need to do.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I think that's fantastic. And this episode is definitely going to go into our new podcast series where we launch at the end of the month, because it just fits beautifully. I think that series will be fantastic for people who are trying to get over life's challenges and move forwards with their careers and learn some new skills and kind of get that real kick and that pump to kind of get going, right? Because we all get stuck. We get stuck in a rut, and perhaps, we think that we don't have the skills, and there are people that are having career changes, like massive changes in their lives. There are people who have got sick and they can't work, or they're changing the way that they work because maybe they can't use both arms anymore, for example, right? So everybody's having to adapt to this new way of working, right? Which some people are going to have to go back to the office. Some people are not going anywhere, right? And they're working from home like all the time, like I am, right? And all these challenges are there because we created them, right? And this is what people, I think, need to take responsibility for their own position, where they're at, and say, well, okay, that was the past. I ended up here. That's fine. And actually, I want to get there, and that's where I'm going. And that's why we've begun to create the Elite Coaches Club. We're going to be launching that, officially very, very soon. And if people want to grab the Grow training, they can go and grab that, and that will really help with your goal setting and achieving those goals. And and you can do it on your own or with someone else. And that's at elitecoachesclub.com. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's
and thanks everyone.
It's been really useful chatting to people. And I would just say, the one thing that's constant these days is change. Change is our only constant. And that actually should give us some confidence that we can do this, because we've survived every other change. And I think it is you're so right, Izzy. It's about looking at it as saying it's just a new opportunity. I always talk about the fact that challenge is just opportunity in a different dress, a little bit like a squirrel is a rat in a better fur coat. It's how we view it that actually alters how we adapt to it. But hopefully, hi Sam, hopefully that's been useful. It's always a delight to chat to you, and maybe you guys watching could get some benefit from your own reflections of the week. We hope so. And until next time, take care.
Thanks for listening to Master Mindset. Please don't forget to follow wherever you listen